Hi, I wanted to make a quick video to talk about your transcription. A number of students have asked questions about what the transcription should look like, and so I wanted to share this with you. So if you go into the modules section on Canvas, or if you go into the assignment prompts for video 1, 2, or 3, you'll see a link for this document. And so you don't have to have it set up in these these columns. If you want, you can do it I mean, you don't have to have it in a graph or a chart if you don't want to, but it does help to make it nice and neat. And if you write what the therapist said in one row and then move down into this next row down here and write what the client said here, again, it kind of helps to organize it. And so it's kind of up to you what's the best fit. You can also combine these first two columns if you want, and just have one column that says client and what they said, and then in the next row therapist. So anyway, you're gonna transcribe verbatim what you or the client said. So not an overall, not a yeah, we kind of said this, but like word for word transcription. The next piece that you're going to take a look at once you have that 15-minute transcription is look at the things that you said as the counselor, and what skill did you use? Was it a door opener, a minimal encourager? Was it an open-ended question, a closed-ended question? And then, as we move forward, it might be a paraphrase or reflection of meaning or feeling, or, all kinds of other things. And so you want to make sure that you put in there what you used and be able to identify accurately what it is that you used. Next, you're going to move into the critical thinking. That column, not every piece has to be filled out. So maybe you had a specific close-ended question that you asked, and you recognize that often close-ended questions could be open-ended questions, but in this case, you asked a close-ended question for a specific reason. This is where you would put this. This is where you would explain, your justification for doing something that you did. And so it helps me to understand a little bit about what your thought process is, so that I can give you accurate feedback on, was that really the best move, or could there have been something that was done differently? And then that final column is the evaluation of response. This is where you would say, I used a closed-ended question here, and I realized that had I used an open-ended question such as blah, 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 it may have been more effective. Or right here, I did a reflection of feeling, but ultimately I realized I could have done a reflection of meaning and gotten even deeper. Or I tried to do a reflection of feeling here and it fell flat. I wasn't accurate on what the client was saying. And so perhaps doing a paraphrase may have been more effective, or an open-ended question. And again, we'll get into some of these a little bit later in the semester. And so those last two columns don't necessarily have to be filled out for every single therapist response, but they would be for many of them, ones that, you want me to understand your logic or your thinking, and ones where you think you may have done something a little bit different. And so hopefully this was kind of helpful for you. The other thing that I wanted to show, and I'm going to stop share just to make sure that you see this. This kind of gives an example of it. The difference is that with this example, it doesn't have that column for, what you were thinking. And so it's missing that. And then also it doesn't have verbatim what the client said. It just has an overview. And this is not what I want. I don't want that. But to give you an example of the counselor, so what would you like to work on today? It was an open question. I would also think that this really serves as a door opener, because you're like, what would you like to work on today, and not really narrowing it down specific. So you could really put both of those in there. And then the evaluation of the response. It was an effective response because it allowed the client to describe his or her concern, and you're not guiding them, right? You're not directing them, leading them somewhere. This next one. Okay, so you and your mother are fighting a lot, and you mentioned that the other day when you were leaving the house, you forgot to take out the trash. When you returned home, your mom got mad at you, and before you knew it, you were in as you put it, a knockdown, drag out argument with her. And so what you're doing is a paraphrase. A paraphrase is a reflection of content. All you're doing is kind of going back to like what it is that they're saying in that statement so that the client feels understood and heard. So the evaluation of the response said in this case, it wasn't as effective because it was too long. And so they recognized that that paraphrase was lengthy and that they could have summarized it in a much cleaner, concise manner. So they say that maybe I could have said, okay, so you and your mother aren't getting along as well as you'd like. And so not only is it clearer and more concise, but it's really getting to the point that the client is trying to make. So it's helping them to take what they're saying and put it into a nice like theme, like overall, this is the theme of what's happening. And so this is similar to what I would want to see on the therapist lines or the counselor lines. Again, in this example, it has a short description of what the client talked about. And in your case, you're going to actually put word for word what the client said. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any continued questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to getting some of your recordings and transcripts in.